Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to put out a number of economic predictions for the Trade League for the upcoming Ritual League, based upon some of the changes that are in the patch notes and the like. Now, I will put a disclaimer that this is my informed speculation. I don't have a time machine. Some of the predictions in this video are undoubtedly going to be wrong, but I'll explain how I got to them anyway. So, there's a number of things that shape the economy of a Path of Exile Trade League. One of the most significant ones is the available Zana modifiers. So Zana modifiers are the various ways that you can spend Chaos Orbs to enhance maps on your map device. And ultimately, these are at the weaker end. In the Heist League that just ended, you had the option of spending 16 Chaos Orbs to add a Mirror of Delirium onto the map. That's no longer going to be a thing. Instead, you've got the option of Beyond, which is going to be the power gamer choice, and Legion, which is also going to be a solid currency farming choice. The other options, particularly the lower options, are just not very good for most purposes. And as a result, I think that we're going to see a league where there's going to be very little demand for Chaos Orbs, at least not coming from power gamers. So power gamers are a huge section of the Path of Exile economy because they run maps faster than most players, and even though they're not a large percentage of the player base, they are probably a large percentage of the number of maps run, and probably actually a majority of the items that drop in the game go to this section of the player base. So what the decisions they make around using Chaos Orbs or not using them to augment maps is going to have a big effect on the whole league economy. So for that reason, I think we're going to see something that's more like what happened in the Harvest League when we saw Chaos Orbs around the 200 Exalt mark early on. In fact, they did actually exceed 200. This is the website POE Antiquary, which has a bit of a memory of the price trajectory of various items from various leagues, but I'm definitely confident they were over 200 for a period, so this slightly underestimates the value of Exalted Orbs in Chaos Orbs. I think we're going to see a league like that, and it's not so much that Exalted Orbs are going to be in higher demand than usual. In fact, I think they're going to be in lower. It's just that Chaos Orbs are not going to be something power gamers are going to be deleting from the economy in massive quantities through Zana's map device. The second point that I want to make is that Harvest is back. Now, this is going to have a transformative effect upon top-end crafting. If you played during the Harvest League, Harvest was so powerful that it effectively invalidated a lot of other methods for crafting gear. And so the way in which you would craft a very high-end item would usually be to pick some sort of method of starting the craft in order to force one of the hardest mods, one of the ones you couldn't modify with the Harvest crafts. And then once you had a couple of starting points for the item, you would then use the Harvest crafts to get everything else right on it. What this meant was that you were doing almost all of the steps through the use of Harvest crafting. There was no need to settle for second best on items because you could get something actually perfect with Harvest crafting, at least at the top end. This wasn't the case for people who were casually crafting, not using the various trading discords and the like. They just got a slight boost in power out of Harvest. But people who knew how to rort the system, who knew how to join the various service trading discords and the like, were crafting items far beyond previous limits in the game and doing so much cheaper than they've done in the past. That's going to continue to be the case. And one of the reasons I think this is important is that one of the biggest ways in which Exalted Orbs are removed from a Trade League economy is through power gamers crafting top-end gear, ideally trying to get a merit tier item. And what they do is that they apply the prefixes cannot be changed or the suffixes cannot be changed modifiers to an item, then hit it with a Scouring Orb. Every time you do this, it costs you 2 Exalts and the Scouring Orb, and it will remove all the mods from the other category. So if you have an item that's got 3 prefixes you consider perfect, but your suffixes are rubbish, you would apply prefixes cannot be changed, which is a suffix, then you would hit the item with a Scouring Orb. That would remove all of the rubbish suffixes, and then you could use Exalted Orbs to try and perfect the item again. Needless to say, this is a very expensive process, and it's a big factor in deleting Exalted Orbs from the economy. The sort of people that can afford this crafting are the sort of people that then go and buy Exalted Orbs from other players, legitimately buy them within the game, basically removing them from the economy en masse. Now, I don't think that's going to be happening as much this league because Harvest crafting outclasses that metamod crafting. There'll still be some uses, some edge cases where metamod crafting is the best way to do things, but basically I think we're going to see Exalted Orbs also having less buying power. So what happens when Chaos Orbs and Exalted Orbs both have less buying power than usual? You end up with very expensive alternate weird currency. So things like the Awakener's Orb, this is only saying on POE Antiquary that it got to the sort of 650, 670 Chaos Orb range early on. I'm expecting, well, my memory of Harvest was that it got quite a bit higher than that, like 900 Chaos range, and that was quite early in the league. And I'm expecting to see Awakener Orbs in the 1000 Chaos range this league, and fairly early on as well. And the reason for that is that there's less demand for Exalted Orbs, less demand for Chaos Orbs, but Awakener Orbs will still be in huge demand, and particularly with the new Maven's Orb providing new utility for the Awakener's Orb as well, so it's more powerful than it's been in the past. Third general point I want to make is that Heist is back, but it's less prevalent. However, there is a node. This is a node that's in one of the Atlas passive trees, Inside Job. And this causes blueprints that drop in the area to have a 10% chance to be fully revealed. This is going to cause an enormous amount of Heist blueprints to enter the economy. Even if you've got no interest in running Heist yourself, if you're playing in a trade league, these 4 points are mandatory because Inside Job is just that good. These are probably the 4 most powerful points on the entire Atlas Ascendancy tree. And the reason for that is that fully revealing a blueprint, it generally costs, at least in high tier blueprints, something like anywhere from 40 to 50,000 rogue markers from memory. So each time that you get one of these, it's going to represent a couple of Exalts worth of rogue markers. You're also going to see quite a lot of them dropping. So from Secret Stash, you'll have more Smuggler's Caches. You have an increased chance to drop blueprints from those Smuggler's Caches. So essentially, you'll see a fair number of blueprints dropping fully revealed due to Inside Job. Now, even if you're not interested in running Heist content yourself, this is going to mean that you will have a lot of blueprints to sell to people that like Heist content. And these blueprints are lucrative. They drop a lot of loot. They drop a lot of quite specialized loot as well. But there's a lot of loot that they drop that is just general stuff that could drop anywhere in the game. So Heist is going to somewhat flood the market with a lot of commodities, and the Inside Job node is going to be the cause of that. But even if the Heist content gets nerfed considerably, and there's no indication on the patch notes that it will, in terms of its loot rewards, but even if it does get nerfed really hard, the unique drops that are Heist exclusive, like replica uniques, alternate quality gems that are not the ones that just got nerfed, all of these are going to be in huge demand too. So for that reason, Inside Job is going to be a huge part of this league economy, essentially disgorging monstrous amounts of rogue markers into the economy and really flooding it with a lot of items. So my predictions for the basic currency items. The first thing I want to point out is that the ritual content appears to drop a fair number of basic currency items. Now, basic currency is a new term that GGG have introduced, referring to currency items like the Divine Orb that can drop anywhere in the game, the Orb of Alchemy and the like. And you'll notice that this player's ritual here is offering quite a number of choices that are basic currency items. So that makes me think that there's going to be a lot of them available to choose between. I'm not sure of that yet. That's just my belief, but that will mean that there'll be more of these in the economy. And even if you don't personally get many Exalted Orbs from it, if it adds a lot to the economy, it will have an effect overall. So I'm expecting to see the buying power of Chaos Orbs decreased. I'm expecting to see the buying power of Exalted Orbs decreased, and that's relative to things, as I said before, like the Awakener's Orb. Sextants, I think, will be in pretty high demand this league. The reason that they were so cheap in Heist was that the most powerful currency and messing strategy was to ignore maps and run high tier heists. That's no longer the case. I'm assuming you can't just back-to-back run heists all the time, and so as a result, you're going to be using more sextants. Additionally, I don't expect that there'll be as many sextants dropping. The economy won't be as flooded with them by people running heists. So I think that all 3 tiers of sextants will be up in value. I think you should even put the bottom tier back on your loot filter at endgame. Divine Orbs, I think that demand should be pretty high. Supply on these is a bit flexible in this league. If Divine Orb prices start to really increase, the Glenark Cairns area of the Atlas contains the node Tamper-Proof. This causes strongboxes in the area to be corrupted and at least rare, and this means that they'll have a good chance to drop 6-link items with bad stats that are corrupted. Corrupted 6-links like that still vendor for a Divine Orb, and so I think there may be quite a number of Divines in circulation. Next up we have Jewelers and Fusings, and I think that these will have early, really high demand as normal in a trade league, but it will crater early, and this will happen at normal speed. Again, Tamper-Proof is a little bit of a way in which the league can normalize. If there's extreme demand for Jewelers and Fusings, more people will spec into Tamper-Proof. That will cause them to get more 6-socket item drops. They'll vendor those 6 sockets and get 7 Jewelers Orbs for each one. And then they can upgrade those Jewelers Orbs to Fusings via the 4-for-1 vendor recipe if they want. Alteration Orbs come next, and these are always super cheap early in a league, and they're a great buy early in the league if you've got idle currency that you want to just park somewhere. I think it's hard to say where alterations will go this league, and a major reason for that is that we don't yet know what the extreme end power gamers, what their demand for the new Maven Orb elevated mods will be like. If it is mods that are inherently rare, like the Crusader Explodey chest mod, if those are the ones that elevate into the best mods, then you will see huge demand for alterations as a result of that. On the flip side, if the things that have the best elevated mods are relatively common mods, things like, for instance, and some of I think it's the Elder has a mod that no, I think it's the Redeemer has mods that increase the effectiveness of hatred on weapons. Actually, you can't Maven Orb a weapon, so that's a bad example. If a relatively common mod like some of the Warlord accuracy mods, if those are ones that elevate into the best mods that are available, then there's going to be less demand for alterations that comes from there. So alterations are a wildcard. Additionally, there is at least one new divination card for Orbs of Alteration. We don't know where it will drop. If it drops from a farmable zone, like let's say that it drops from one of the new map tile sets, then I think a lot of people will be running that map over and over again for the alteration cards, and as a result, they will get a lot of them into the market. On the flip side, if it drops somewhere that's less target farmable, like let's say that it drops in the Maelstrom of Chaos unique map, then in that case, you would not see the market get as flooded. It would just be that every time you got a Maelstrom of Chaos, I'd be worth a little bit more. The last basic currency I want to talk about is Mirrors of Kalandra. Demand on these always outstrips supply. I expect mirrors to get more expensive every league, and the reason for that is that the pool of people who know how to generate a lot of currency quickly grows every league. And those people, the pool of people that are capable of trading for a mirror grows faster than the number of mirrors that drop. That's why I think mirrors will be more valuable than they've been in the past. Additionally, if you ever want to park currency early in the league, let's say that you've decided you're going to go for a camping trip for 5 days, and you had a great league start, you've got 22 Exalts sitting in your stash tab. What you should do before you go away is convert all of those into whatever fragments of mirrors you can buy. Whether that be the divination card House of Mirrors if you're rich, an actual mirror if you're very rich, but if you don't have as much currency as that, consider trading for the divination card The Immortal, the divination card 7 Years Bad Luck, or for mirror shards, or for the divination card Unrequited Love. All of these are pieces of a Mirror of Kalandra. They will appreciate in value over the league, and they will appreciate fast. So those are something that you can always consider. Next thing I want to talk about is weird currency, and here we're talking about the Conqueror currency. So I'm using the Awakener Orb as a stand-in. Already mentioned that I think that these will be more expensive than usual, and the same applies to Redeemer Exalts, Crusader Exalts, and the like. I think that these will have considerably higher buying power against everything. The reason for that is that whilst you still have full access to the Conquerors of the Atlas content, it's not fresh and new. There's something else that's fresh and new, and I think people will be prioritizing doing the Maven content at the expense of slower progression around towards Cirrus, and so we will see fewer Cirrus kills this league than normal. We will also see fewer Veritania, Baran, and so on kills. It's not so much that the people that will get to 32 Watchstones will still get to 32 Watchstones in this league, and they'll probably get there quite early. But there won't be as many people sitting at 32 Watchstones doing Cirrus cycle after Cirrus cycle after Cirrus cycle. They'll probably instead be doing Maven cycles, and you'll get some incidental Conquerors doing that, but not as many as if you focused on them. So for that reason, I'm expecting that, I'm going to just make a prediction here, this could be wrong, that an Awakener's Orb will hit 1,000 Chaos at some point in this league, and that a full set of the 4 Conquerors Exalts will hit 1,200 to 1,400 Chaos. How that gets distributed between the 4 of them is going to depend upon a whole lot of balance things that I just can't really predict. It's going to depend upon the way the meta shifts, but I'm going to predict that they'll add to 12 to 1,400, but whether that's split in favour of the Hunter Exalt being half of the sum of the 4 of them, like it was in 3.9 Metamorph, or whether it's the Redeemer Exalt that's the expensive one, like it was in the Heist League, I'm not going to predict that. The Maven's Orb is the next type of weird currency, and here I think this is going to be very expensive. It's new, people experiment with it, and again, the proportion of the player base that are power gamers that not understand the economy has grown in Path of Exile over the last couple of years. And that's just going to lead to more people having the currency, even to burn, trying out some things with the Maven's Orb that might be risky strategies. Next up, I want to talk about the Horizon Orb. I think the Horizon Orb is a weird currency item that is going to be really good in this league. This doesn't necessarily mean it will be expensive, because it is still a pretty common drop, but the ability to turn any tier 16 map drop into a burial chamber for an average of 4 or less Horizon Orbs, so it's 4 if the map that you're turning into a burial chambers is not a natural tier 16, and it's an average of 3 if it is a natural tier 16, that's going to cause a lot of demand for Horizon Orbs. Additionally, there's several decent natural tier 14s and natural tier 15s, so Horizon Orbs will get used on those as well. I think that this is not going to be a league for using your Horizon Orbs to fill in holes in your Atlas early on. By all means, do that a little bit, but I don't think you want to just sink, 40 Horizon Orbs into getting your last tier 2 map. I think you want to save them for high-end mapping. In terms of boss uniques, Elementalist is getting a lot of interest at the moment. I don't know whether it's going to end up being a good build or not, but it's certainly something that a lot of people are going to play around with. And some of the best ways to power up an Elementalist at endgame look like they may revolve around the unique items that drop from Uber Elder. And specifically, I'm talking about Eternity Shroud and Disintegrator here. These 2 items provide a lot of power potentially for an Elementalist character, especially one that is focused on ignites, because all of your chaos damage can ignite as a consequence of having the new Elementalist nodes. So for this reason, there's a couple of much better than usual uniques dropping from Uber Elder. That's going to make the keys to access the Uber Elder encounter more pricey than they normally have been. This in turn will push up demand for Shaper and Elder access keys and cause the unique items from the Shaper and the Elder fights to crater in price. That's not going to cause 2 Mod Watchers' eyes to crater. They'll still be expensive, but everything else will probably be dumpster tier from those fights. Now that doesn't mean that you can get a Dying Sun on day 2 of the league for 30 Chaos. No, Dying Sun will still be expensive early, but it will plummet much earlier than it normally does because people will run their Shapers rather than just sitting on the fragments for a while. League uniques are the next thing I want to talk about. I think there will be more of these in circulation than usual thanks to more access to breach stones and the like. That's going to mean that many of them will be cheaper than usual, but not all of them. As always, the meta shifts can sometimes make a league exclusive unique really expensive. Next up, though, talking about league uniques, you can't talk about these things without talking about Headhunter, and Breach is on the map device. So get ready for huge demand. Sorry, not Breach. Beyond is on the map device. So get ready for huge demand for the Headhunter this league. There's always huge demand for it, but higher than usual. Next up, there's the question of awakened gems and other special gems. Cirrus is not the focus of the expansion, and neither is Heist, and as a result, I think there'll be less Cirruses killed than usual and less Heists run than were run last league. So that means that the awakened gems that remain, or that are on meta, and those Heist alternate quality gems that remain good, I expect that those will be considerably more expensive than they've been in other leagues. And yes, that may mean that some of the top ones, Awaken Spell Cascade, if that ends up being on meta, Awaken Multi-Strike, if anyone wants to use that, they could be very expensive this league. Now, the last two things I want to talk about are commodities. Maps, I think there will be an economy-wide oversupply, but people will want specific ones all league. So there'll be a bulk premium on maps. What this means is that you might be able to sell one Burial Chamber tier 16 for 7 chaos, but if you've got 30 of them, you might be able to command 300 chaos for the lot of 30 instead. The other thing that's of note is that Delirious maps will drop, and this is something that's kind of new. Some of them did drop in Heist, but they were rare. And when I talk about Delirious maps, I mean maps that have Delirium Orbs already pre-applied to them. These will drop with a 10% chance for maps that drop in the Lex Ajoris octant if you have allocated the Atlas Ascendancy node Pathological. And given that Pathological is probably the second best node on the entire Atlas, at least my initial thoughts on it, I think that you'll have a lot of people taking that, and so a lot of maps will be dropping with these already Delirium Orbed maps on them. So keep an eye out for these, as they will be very worth your while running. Now, Scarabs. I expect that Scarabs will never be as common again as they were in the Heist League, but with Delirium Orbs dropping, with maps dropping Delirious, and with people having a lot of focus on the Delirium Mirror in one of the other octants, there'll be a lot of skittering Delirium Orbs dropping and in circulation, and there will be people using Fractured Fossils to duplicate maps that have got 100% Delirious layer with 5 Scarab reward layers. So for that reason, I do think that there will be a lot of Scarabs in circulation, just less than there were in Heist. So they'll be cheap, but not as cheap as they were in the Heist League. Common fossils are the next thing I want to talk about, and then fractured fossils after that. So common fossils will mostly come from simulacrums and legions and the like. I don't think there'll be many people dabbling in Delve. There's so much new stuff to do, and Delve, whilst it's great, Delve is old content now. It's been 2.25 years since Delve came out, and as a result, I think that you'll see quite a sharp push away from running those. Quite a sharp push away from running Nico missions and the like. There will still be a dedicated fan base for deep delving, but those people don't generate very many common fossils. So I'm expecting high prices on corroded fossils and the like. The undersupplied and powerful fossils, mostly for crafting early game gear. Not so much early end game gear. This is stuff that'll ultimately get replaced by harvest crafted gear. But it'll be powerful stuff that'll be used for a while. So I'm expecting common fossils to be more expensive than normal. Fractured fossils, on the other hand, there's just a huge bunch of players that love the thrill of deep delving, and that are going to do it whether it's the best thing to do in a league economy or not. And those players are going to pump fractured fossils into the economy. I expect that fractured fossils will just end up at basically 5 times the price of a Scarab Delirium Orb, and they'll stay there, or maybe a little bit below 5 times, and they'll stay there pretty much the entire league. The last thing I want to talk about is Elva's Corruption Chamber, and this is going to be much more common than it's been in the past, thanks to some of the various nodes that are incursion related. And as a result, we will not be seeing a repeat of Heist, where the Corruption Chamber was frequently being sold on Discord for 15 Exalts. I think you'll find that 2 implicit corrupted uniques will be much more common than they were in 3.12, and there'll be a lot of people trying to sell their corruption chambers. I think you can actually use the corruption chamber on your own medium tier gear without feeling too bad about it, without feeling like you must instead use it on a meta item or be punished. So for that reason, I think Corruption Chamber will be just so much more available and so much more able to be used frivolously than it has been in the past. Anyway, that's my initial thoughts on the upcoming League economy. As I say, a disclaimer, I'm probably wrong on some things, but they're my thoughts and my reasons why. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.